Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sasquatch Watch Radio with your host, Billy Willard, and the Blog Squatter. Strap in, hold on tight, get ready, because it is about to go down.
Alrighty, folks, welcome everyone to another episode of Sasquatch Watch Radio. Today is Monday, October the 6th, 2008. We have a wonderful guest lined up for you tonight, but before we get into that, we would certainly want to bring in the infamous blog squatcher himself, D.B. Donnan.
How's it going, Billy?
I'm doing just fine. How about you?
I'm doing good. Things are good here. As you know, I'm a longtime New Orleans Saints fan, and I've been. I gotta confess, I got my TV on right now because they're on the TV, and there's Reggie Woodstone. He almost scored. So if you hear something like that, it's not because I'm being attacked or something horrible is happening. I just saw something I couldn't contain myself. But anyway, we've got some news. We don't have as much as I usually bring, but we do have one news item.
My understanding is that that's a pretty interesting article there.
Yes, this news item was bound to get people like us, interested in talking about it. Discovery.com is carrying an article about a study that some scientists did where they discovered that when people are feeling insecure, they are more likely to see things that aren't really there. So that's interesting. But they're talking about things that are in a sort of like a Rorschach. I hope I'm not going to mess this word up. Rorschach test, where you look at it and you kind of have to decide what it is. They're talking about that sort of thing, where they might give you something and there's not really any image in it, but then they make you feel insecure. And then you might say, well, I see something in it. That's what they've shown in the lab. But the way they presented it, and let me just read out the last two paragraphs. The writer says, on the more spectacular UFO, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster level, however, the bottom line is even more straightforward. The take-home message is that just because we perceive something, said Radford, the author of the study, it doesn't mean it's really there. So as you can see, they've taken what they discovered in the lab, which was if they get you a little bit uncomfortable or feeling insecure, you might make some, mental connections when you look at something like a Rorschach test that aren't really there. And they extrapolate from that people who see Bigfoot are just seeing it because they're insecure, not feeling secure at that time. Now, I kind of feel like they might be over-interpreting their data. What do you think?
Yep. I believe you may be correct. I tell you what, I guess that means we're all going to start seeing Bigfoot now because with this latest these latest budget problems and this bailout program, I guess we're all going to be seeing Bigfoot around everywhere.
Open my door, Bigfoot. That's right,
Bigfoot. Oh gosh, I know it's something. Well, without further ado, we want to bring on our guest for tonight. A lot of you guys know him as, excuse me, that wasn't politically correct, guys and gals. A lot of you know him as Swamp Rat. Comes into the chat all the time. He's a great supporter of the show. Also known as Dan. And Dan from Florida, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Billy. I'm happy to be here, support your show.
Certainly glad to have you here. I guess I tell you, just so everyone knows, I've been getting a lot of messages from Dan. I know he's been busy. He is rarely ever on anymore because I think he's out in the field all the time. Is that correct, Dan?
Yes, what happens here is during hunting season down here in your national forest in Florida, you can't camp just anywhere. And I've been basically homesteading this one spot where over the past couple of years we've gotten a lot of activity, sticks thrown, and beginning of September, right before the full moon, I thought I've seen something 15 feet in front of me, and we would find tracks. And this year we had 2 sticks thrown into camp. I actually got a picture of one of them on my MySpace profile.
Cool. Very cool. Now, give us a little bit of background, because when I read the blog that you were sending to me, there was a lot of background information about how you had set up your camp. You know, I understand that you had brought, you know, someone with you as well, a female, I believe, right?
Yeah, before her, I had a guy. What I did is I ran it out in the paper, and I had basically had somebody babysit camp. That way I could get 1 or 2 nights a week home with my other half. I'll get a lot of people when they first get in this one area, it's just a job and good food, because I kind of eat good in the woods, especially when you camp a lot. And usually within a couple of nights, they're staying in the middle of the camp holding the firearm with tears running down their eyes, down their face, scared.
Right.
Because there's something out there.
Right. Now that everybody's wanting to know what part of Florida you're in.
I'm in Marion County.
Okay.
Northeast Marion County. If you look on a big map, you'll see Lake George. I'm just this side of Lake George, and coming back towards LaSalle, Ocala. But I live out in the forest. I was doing research 60 to 200 miles away constantly years ago. I thought I got a Class B incident in an area in 2005, and during the same week, a very high-ranking lieutenant in our local sheriff department told me within days after me having a Class B encounter, which is wood knocking, of him having a sighting with another officer and his brother off duty down in the area fishing. And after that, I started hunting the area, looking at it a lot, because it was my experience when I was a kid growing up. We used to have open container dumps, and that used to these big green boxes, and they were always attracted to that. And my theory was, if I couldn't bring Bigfoot to the dump, I'll bring the dump to Bigfoot. And so once a week, my other half clean out the fridge, and plus we buy food and bait an area. And on one occasion, I've gotten 3 different footprints. I've gotten very, very credible reports of a female. The lieutenant with the sheriff department, he's seen a male about 8.5 foot tall, and over the course of 2 years, I've gotten reports of what I can only assume is a juvenile. And along this one muddy trail, I've discovered tracks at one time. I've actually developed a technique to now try to find tracks. I wait till after a bad rain, because I believe these animals are they know when they're leaving a track, and they're track conscious. And when puddles would dry up, that's when I would tend to, if I got lucky, I mean, I can't do it at will, find some tracks. And we've been babysitting. It got so bad out there at one point, my other half refuses to go with me anymore because it scared her that bad. So therefore, I was hiring people just to babysit the camp some and be another pair of eyes, just so wouldn't be reading into anything or subjective.
Right. Now, if you don't mind, explain exactly what it was that frightened your wife. Why does she not want to go back out anymore?
Well, what happened was we went out there with the small dome tent, and I went out there with the little Cabela's fold-out camp kitchen. It was about 12 o'clock, and we were dozing off going to sleep, and we constantly had bears outside our camp trying to bluff us out. We'll have 8 tiki torches surrounding the camp to keep the bears out. As we're laying there, now our dog ain't scared of anything. It will eat you. It will eat a bear or try to. It's not scared of nothing. All of a sudden the dog went ape shit, wanting to get out of the tent, whimpering, peeing on itself, wanting to run away. The bears instantly hit the palmettos and were gone. Through the underbrush, we heard very large bipedal tracks, and you could smell something. It was not a rotten smell, more of just like a wild animal smell. It just come walking on the outskirts of the camp, and about 10 minutes later down in the swamp there, we heard a knocking and a whooping sound. And I was dead tired. I got up and knocked and whooped back, and I instantly got no response. During the course of that weekend, when I would leave, because I got 3 areas out there that I bait, I tried different baits, different techniques in certain areas, each one about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from each other. I would walk to go retrieve a trail camera. This thing would be constantly around. She could smell it. The dog's acting crazy again. Then I was gone, and about 10:30 in the morning, something threw a stick at her in the camp. She's standing at the camp kitchen. By then, I had set up a massive camp. Big tent, poop shower for her, and she's underneath a cabana. It just comes sailing in. And when I got back, she was all freaked out. Later on that night, about 12:30, there's a little bit of a trail that's my bathroom, where I dug a real deep hole with some post hole diggers, and I'm down there trying to go poop at 12:30 in the morning, and I got her and the dog crowding me. I'm like, well, what's going on? And then come to find out, they're scared. And she goes, there's something out there. And every now and then you would catch a hint of this, smelling it, and she just refuses to go anymore. Because for her, when I started off doing this a lot 8 years ago, she came with me and she humored me. And now, and she'll look you dead in the eye and she'll say, I'm not saying that it's Bigfoot, but there's something out there that a bear ain't going to throw a stick at you. And there ain't nobody out there where we go. Right. And so I started this year, because I was trying to replicate this year what I had with her. I had a female there. I didn't take into equation that we had the dog there. But it could have been the dog that actually attracted it. But what I was trying to do is just recreate something in that area to bring it in. And I started scouting the area this year. Usually when I scout an area, I might sleep in the back of my Jeep, or I just might take my little dome tent and my little poop bucket, and that's it. And I'm basically living there. And we got another dog also here that she got me for Valentine's Day, another Australian Shepherd, and he'll chase the raccoons and the possums away. And if a bear comes around, he'll run into the tent, jump on top of me, because I got the door open and a camouflage blind hanging over it to where I can see out, and the dog can come in and out. And about 2:30 in the morning, I got a Coleman lantern running, and I got it about 14, 15 feet up, hanging from a tree limb, and the dog lays underneath a little round dark shadow underneath it. The dog, wakes me up, growling and backing up, and I rolled over and looked, and I've never seen a dog act like this. Usually he just barks, goes after something, or he runs towards me because he's just a puppy, about 7 months old. About that time, this is about 2:30 in the morning, a stick comes sailing into camp at him, and threw a stick at him. So he instantly runs in, piles on top of Daddy, and I just stay there, hoping to see something. I've never seen anything. I never seen anything. Next morning I got up, and there's no sticks in my camp because earlier, when you have a little bit of fire, every little bit of kindling you're trying to get, all of a sudden right there, I go, there's the stick. And I picked it up, and it was a water oak, about the size of just barely smaller than a $50, where something grabbed it, broke it off, and ripped it down and threw it at the dog. And so I'm not thinking that now. I pick it up. I go, well, that'll be a souvenir. I'll sit in my office. Threw it in the back of the Jeep. Next day, I discovered about a 5-inch hair that would have grabbed it and broke it off, or on the back of its palm, let's say, where a hair might be hanging, where a hair, when the wood blade, when it was breaking it, got stuck down in there pretty good. And we ain't had that analyzed yet. I bought a microscope, but what I understand, it ain't powerful enough to really examine the hair. And then later on this, then I hired a guy to go out there. He got too scared. He's supposed to be ex-Army Ranger with survival training in Panama. And he got out there. These are some spooky woods out there. I mean, they are spooky. And you are a part of I'm not exaggerating, you are a part of the food chain out there. And we got some very aggressive gators and bears out there. And, whenever they get an aggressive bear anywhere, they dump it in that area. And so I ended up hiring this girl, Carol, until the end of hunting season, which was September 22nd, because that week I had to break down my camp and haul everything in. And I would leave her out there sometimes by herself. Her first night out there, she was in her tent. We heard like something being thrown and landing outside of camp, and next thing you know, we're instantly up. The following night, something's out there walking around, and then you'll hear word knocking, and, she was like, just something to do to make a little bit of money. And next thing you know, she's clutching her 38, crying because something's going to get her. And I go, yeah, I didn't know better. And because I'll look at people and joke, I go, I'm not so crazy now, am I? And then with her there one morning, right around the same time, it's about 9:30 in the morning, she was cooking breakfast, and because we were up all late that night, and all of a sudden I seen it coming from a good distance. I mean, a real good distance away. On the other side of some real thick vines. Now these woods are very, very thick. You're not walking through them. You're not crawling through them. They're so thick in places. You're just not walking through them. But on the other side of this big, wall of vines, I just seen the stick come sailing, and instead of it landing into camp, a big tree, it hit the limb of it. Carol instantly jumped and looked, but I was sitting in my tent because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to not be seen. I'm constantly in my tent or hidden with a video camera. Right. It hit the tree branch so hard it gyrated and vibrated a lot of green leaves off of it. And she was like, "Oh my God, what was that?" I go, "It just got thrown." Later on that night, we would hear something. The next morning, we found a suggestive 14-inch footprint. I could step in it. I got small feet, were a size 8.5, and but I couldn't leave no indentations in the ground whatsoever next to it. Now, I know there wasn't a footprint there that day because I was baiting the area. Then roughly the following night, we hear something out there, and it comes straight up, kind of like straight towards us. It pretty well knows what direction we're facing, circles around our camp, or we know something's out there. And she's freaking and she's scared, so I'm sitting up. We're both outside of the tents, sitting in chairs, and she's out of her tent, I'm out of mine, and we're sitting there just talking, and she's scared, sitting there clutching her little 38, and so I had to pee at that point because I drink coffee 24/7, and instead of walking all the way down my trail to pee because I knew something was out there, I just go behind my tent, but I got about 10 feet to the wood line, and off to my right about 15 feet, like a little tiny bit of a tree branch with just a couple of limbs in front of me. I'm looking, I'm sitting there trying to pee now. I'm like, damn, I don't remember a big tree trunk being there. And as I go to step sideways, while I'm still urinating, this thing moves, and I jump 5 feet up and 5 feet back. Needless to say, I finished urinating real quick, but I didn't get a chance to see if it left on 2 or 4 legs. But what was really scary, this is the part that freaked me out, I just walked the perimeter. I just shined a little mag light, because I won't use my spotlight because that'll really scare something away. Looking for eye shine, and I just looked for eye shine right there, not 2 minutes, well, maybe 5 minutes before that. Right. And what gets me is this thing was standing behind us, on the back side of us, maybe a total of 35, 40 feet, just standing there. But, judging by the head, because it's almost a full moon, judging by the head, it didn't look like a bear. You know, it wasn't really cone shaped, but it was more not cone, but not round. It was a little bit of cone to it. But and at that point, that's when I got my sidearm out. And that's just in case of something. Usually, you know, I've never shot in the woods and stuff one time, and that was a raccoon that I believe was rabid. And but because I don't hunt, I don't shoot. I mainly got it for personal defense against idiots out there. And but at that point, this thing was about 7.5 feet tall, and it wasn't a bear standing there. I mean, because I'm just used to seeing bears there, and bears trying to bluff us out of our camp. But I always notice when this thing does come around, the total absence of bears. And we got a late start this year. Me having constant trouble with my one company in Ocala, and so I was most of the nights I was there 6 nights a week. Go home. I think I might go home on a Monday night to be with my other half, and while I'm there, I'm listening to the shows, and then I'm back out there, and I don't get internet service on my internet card, so I really couldn't. Sometimes I would blog on MySpace, and it just we would just sit out there. I don't want to go out there tromping around and scare anything off. My whole philosophy is sit here and try to bring it into me and try different tactics. The reason why I hired Kittle, and I don't want to be too crude here, but the reason why I hired Kittle, she would have 2 menstrual cycles a month. And so she was constantly urinating in one of these buckets, and we were spot pouring it. I seen nothing that would suggest that affected it at all, and because I talked about that, years ago doing that, and but I seen nothing that suggested that attracted it, but it could have been the female, and but we had to shut it down before September 22nd, because hunters were already getting near our camp, wanting to they were putting up their deer stands. And then we were going to I was going to spend a lot of time on the river, and my boat motor went, and I got another little tiny boat motor just 3 days ago from my neighbor across the street here, and at the business complex. So I get a lot of reports from that area. What with the few people that research this a lot, on my MySpace profile, I even got a copy of an odor flyer. But I get these flyers made up by thousands. I post them everywhere with a staple gun. But I put them in local publications where people will be selling stuff. And I've got as many as 6 individual reports in a 36-hour period in a particular area, or 3 within a 14-hour period in an area, and backdating other reports in the area where, people see me online, or they'll see the flyer in a newspaper, and they'll call and say, well, I remember 10 years ago when we lived out there, and I was actually kind of tracking more while I was out on my back for 45 days about 6 months ago when I was going through a lot of dental surgery. I was getting constant reports out of a place called Orange Springs that all of a sudden they cease and desist. By that time I was already where I'm at, and then all of a sudden my area went completely cold. Right, it was just like flipping a light switch. It went cold. And then all of a sudden I got 3 reports, which was basically 3 to 3.5 miles away on the other side of the river. And I was supposed to be in that spot at that particular time, and due to dealing with trouble with my company, I was stuck here. And because I'm trying to put myself in a position to have a very, very, very good sighting. And I was just, I want an undisputable good sighting, and hopefully some good video. And I carry a video camera, but I don't never unpack it, and I usually got all kinds of equipment with me, and it's going to be hard to shoot anything at night. I have found it don't matter if it's day or night when this thing is active down here in Florida. I mean, when I was a kid, a lot of sightings were during the day, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, some at night. I think it's like anything else, like the bears down here. We'll have bears active during the day, foraging for food, and they get tired or it gets too hot. They bed down, and but I don't think you can actually say it's nocturnal, because I've always had a problem with that, because there's a lot of sightings down here that take place during the day, 10 o'clock in the morning, noon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, not in so much 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but before noon, before the main heat of the day gets out. And because when we were a kid, it always came around during the middle of the day raiding our garbage. And so just taking our garbage, and monkeys, we had 3 monkeys at the time, all females, that kind of menstruated at the same time or went into heat at the same time. The monkey, it wasn't attracted to the monkeys or nothing like that. It was constantly attracted to our garbage trailer. And you would go out there and find garbage scattered and find footprints. And when we were kids growing up, this was our boogeyman. This is what, we were scared of. And I never thought I'd be out there hunting for the thing. And what got me started? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to let you know it's about time for us to take a commercial break, and my dog is starting to start barking, too. Sorry about that, everybody. And also, Billy's phone is misbehaving, so he can't actually talk to us on the phone right now. I'm sure he'll get back in pretty soon, but for right now, he's just on the chat. So if you want to know what Billy's thinking, he'll be putting on the chat.
I just stand outside because I'm on a cell phone with a headset.
Okay. Well, I'm talking to the other listeners also. They can catch up with Billy a little bit on the chat. So, Billy, go ahead and punch up the commercials because we are ready to roll, and we'll get right back to you, Dan, and after the break. Okay, let me try that again. Punch up the commercials, Billy. We're ready to roll. I'm going to guess, unless the commercials just start, that Billy actually can't even punch up the commercials either. So, Dan, what I'm going to get you to do is to continue your thought while I see if I can't figure out what to do with this interface here.
Well, what got me, what I was going to say earlier, what got me started in researching this, growing up, we always knew of Bigfoot, heard of Bigfoot, got backwards reports off channels through the sheriff department, did my mom's political position with the county, or she worked for the county. And but I was racing a stock car out at our local speedway, and we got rained out one Saturday night, and we actually seen that Memorial Day footage. And I looked at my other half, and I go, you know, they're showing all these nuts on TV, and I basically looked at her and said, I want to be one of those nuts too. And I'm just making a little joke there. And so after that, it just started the obsession with me. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. I mean, it's just a obsession for me. And I wish I knew then what I know now. And because, you know, I was really ignorant when I started. You know, I thought, a couple weekends out, I'll have a good video of it or a good photo of it, you know, and I was highly naive. And my other half came along because it was like something to do and together. But now, because of something being out there, she'll say, you know, she's not saying, I won't say it's Bigfoot, but she thinks it's probably some escaped ape or something that scientists experimented on or something. That's what she claims it is. But it's the best bait I found that I use, believe it or not, is pineapple. I buy pineapples. Pineapple? Yeah, and I take black nylon string and throw it way over a limb and hang it about 8.5 feet up in the air. And I use pineapples, a lot of pineapple, because pineapple has a very strong smell, sweet smell. And I've been trying to use marshmallows, too, for bait, and nothing but the raccoons like them. And but it's awful suspicious when you can have a pineapple 8.5, 9 feet up off the ground, and nothing can get to it, and then all of a sudden you come back, it's been ripped down. And but I mainly use it because it's a fruit, and it has a very strong smell. I mean, you know, it has a very strong smell.
All right. Well, hold on right there, and let's get to our commercials since I've got the interface up to start that. We'll get through the commercials, and we'll get right back to you, and then we'll also get to the calls, the call-in number, if I can remember it. Well, I know I could put it down in the chat here real fast. It is 347-237-5070, 347-237-5070, and here we'll get some commercials out of the way.
Sasquatch Watch Radio. Stay tuned.
Over recent years, the traditional office has become more of a touchpad than a daily destination. Long gone is the reliance on a landline to work away from the office. More people are performing work from home or other locations thanks to technologies like GoToMyPC that lets you take your office wherever you go. With GoToMyPC, you have freedom from the office, enhanced work-life balance, and increased work flexibility. When choosing a remote access service, you need to make sure it's easy to set up, easy to use, and affordable. That's why you need GoToMyPC, and you can try it free for 30 days. For this special offer, visit gotomypc.com/podcast. That's gotomypc.com/podcast. Take your office with you wherever you go with GoToMyPC.
Okay, we're back from the commercials, and Dan, if you're still on the line, I think we're going to take a call now from the 662 area code with a question for you. Let's see if I've done that right. 662, you are on the air.
Am I on?
Yep, you're on.
Yep, you're
All
on.
right. This is Henry.
Hey,
Good
Henry.
to see you, Henry.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dan about, I've seen, I think it was on Google Earth, about reports around the Jacksonville area. I was actually born in Jacksonville, but I only spent a year there. I was wondering, is there more of a prominence of reports in northern Florida, or are they pretty much confined to southern Florida?
I think it's more confined to Central Florida, all up and down. You get more into southern Florida, it's more wide open with the Everglades, and you get into the panhandle of Florida, it's more wide open. I know there's a lot of reports south of Jacksonville through the Middleburg, Palatka area. I think Palatka for like 150 years, they had the nickname for it Barden Booger, and a place near where I hunt. The old-timers back then used to call this one area Booger Hollow, where they were supposed a family of Bigfoots were supposed to live at one time. And that area really no longer exists anymore. But I think a lot of it, the reason why I do the flyers, and I mentioned to people before why they need to do this, a lot of people, they don't even think to report anything online. I tried to submit a report online before through a well-known organization out there, and the time constraint and everything was too much of a PIA, and so a lot of people, they're just afraid to submit anything online, or they just want somebody to talk to. Most of the things I get is people like, what is it, what could it be? And but there's a lot of reports south of Jacksonville coming back towards Palatka, Barden, up in that area, and Middleburg, up near Middleburg there. But that's the very tip. There's an area out here, I call it my Area 51 for Bigfoot, had for years because of a lot of reports, and it's kind of like a triangle in there to where there's a lot of reports to where it's like migrating. You almost get the reports for 3-4 weeks out of an area or up to 30 days, and then it just, all of a sudden they cease and they pick up another 10, 15 miles south. But that Etnia State Forest up there, 5-6 years ago, that's all they were talking about was, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, Etnia State Forest or something like that. A lot of Bigfoot reports in that area back in 2004. And there were some researchers up there, so I didn't go up there. I really don't affiliate with a lot of other researchers. I kind of do my own thing because I'll be honest with you, I feel like I'm babysitting. And it sounds mean, but if I know of an organization is in an area researching something, I'll be 10 miles away from them in a direction that I hope that they'll scare something towards me. I'll use them as flank or flank, and because you get too many people in the woods, they just scare everything around. and scare everything away. And I tend to just go out there and sit. And I'll try different tactics constantly. You know, I usually don't wood knock or broadcast a sound. But there is one sound that I did get a really good response with. It was really stupid too. It was a tape that I bought at Jerry's Archery Shop there in Ocala of a hawk killing a crow. And when I got that wood knocking back in 2005, where law enforcement had their sighting that week, I was playing that tape actually. And other than it bringing in hawks, all of a sudden I got wood knocking, and I walked down the swamp a little bit, started wood knocking back. But yeah, south of Jacksonville there's always been a lot of reports coming out of that area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get none personally, because that's mainly out of the range of the circulation of this newspaper. There's a little newspaper here in Central Florida called the Peddler's Paper. People buy and sell livestock. Back when I was a kid growing up, if you had livestock to sell or farm goods or stuff like that, it's more of for a rural area. You always stuck it in the Peddler's Paper. And so I keep an eye on that one constantly, and have for about almost 3 years, I want to say. But as first-hand knowledge of anything coming out of Jacksonville area, I have no first-hand knowledge, Henry.
Okay.
Except for what I read online.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask if you were familiar with some other Florida researchers, such as Diane Stocking and her twin sister Donna, and also Dan Jackson and his story where he saw one in a dumpster, which was recreated on Monster Quest.
Yeah, I have a problem with Dan Jackson, and I really don't want to get into that because I'll just say this: 8 years ago, I started using mirrors. 8 years ago, and I told somebody about it in South Florida that I can almost connect the dots back to him, you know. And I really don't affiliate with a lot of them because when I had trouble in 2005 when BRFO was down in Green Swamp. I was researching. I was going to hunt Green Swamp. This was in late March of 2005. There's BRFO was down here in Florida. I went to another area where another person that has a small website. Him and his friends were there researching their area, and I was kind of told politely, well, this is our area, you need to find your own area. I go, oh, yeah, I will. Don't worry about it. I'm just making contact, being nice, shaking hands. I went and found my own area. Well, the only person who got anything was me. Nobody got anything. For 4 weeks, I was getting this thing screaming at me. Every Wednesday and Saturday, baiting an area, and nothing. I found footprints everywhere. I made some plaster casts of them. It was my first class making plaster casts, messed them up. And once I let them know where I was, and I told them, hey, listen, I'm using mirrors, and I told them my theory behind it. Next thing I know, in my area, all of a sudden I got all these cameras and these mirrors. And I kind of hit the ceiling and pulled my hair out at home when I heard, you know, somebody else claim they came up with mirrors all on their own. And I actually found out online there's other people who thought of using mirrors too because they've had an encounter at a zoo or with a baboon or something. You know, people doing this type of research, you can almost surmise we're all going to almost arrive at same conclusions or try to use same tactics because I've been using a decoy bait for over 2 years, possibly 3 years. Another radio show that was on this time slot, I came out of the woodwork to support his radio show and actually joined MySpace at the time because I thought it was for kids. I actually announced it on his show back then, because I was on there about almost every week for 30, 40 minutes. I guess they were desperate for to fill airtime with me, but I was using a decoy, and once a year I'll use a decoy for 2 weeks, and I don't get nothing out of it, and I'm afraid of it really hurting me more than anything. And I'll pack it away and put it away, and but you know, researchers are going to derive or try other things. Every time I thought I've had an original idea, I'll find out somebody done tried that 20 years ago, you know. And I used to ask a lot of questions online on certain forums, but I just got tired of being attacked, and I kind of do my own thing, really. And it's something for me to do, and it's just an obsession with me. I mean, I just eat, sleep, and breathe it. I mean, I don't think about nothing else but that.
Well, I know that's the truth. I tell you, because I'm always getting messages from you, Dan, on the MySpace. You're always telling me, you know, some of the things that you're doing out in the field, which I'm envious of. I wish I could get out there that much, but I just I really wish I could. I just can't. I can't get out there that much, and I'm kind of envious of that. So I wish I had the time to do that. You're lucky that you're able to get out there like you do.
Well, I
actually have one more question, and I'm going to get off the line. As far as the correlation of footprints, do you find that there are more three-toed, although Diane Stocking is not too crazy about three-toed skunk apes? You can just ask her. But, no, do you find that there's more of a correlation of five-toed or three-toed tracks in Florida?
Five-toed is what I always found. Five-toed. I've seen placer cast out of South Florida. I stopped by somebody's place one time, and they were showing me a plaster cast of a three-toed. And in a way, I don't know. It's quite, they could have three toes. I mean, they could have lost a toe at one point to a gator, another toe to something else, or it could have been, interbred and born with three toes. But I've always found just like a regular footprint, but when you're running across a footprint 18.5 inches long back up into the woods and swamp, it ain't a person, because I'm having to wear my boots and trud through the swamp, and it's hard to find somebody with an 18.5 foot footprint. And but I've always found one thing I did find unique about footprints one time. I thought I found a real, when I say real young juvenile, I'm talking like a 6-inch footprint. And this was years ago over near Gulf Hamlet here in Florida, which is just north of Crystal River. And I was back in an area where I wasn't supposed to be, and I thought I found some small baby footprints about 6 inches long, but they were almost, I don't want to say horseshoe, but boomerang with such a big arch going. I was like, wow, I was in awe, and I was just trying to get out of there because I wasn't supposed to be there, and I was stuck and trying to get my Jeep unstuck. But I'll never forget, I seen that, and I always actually meant to ask Mr. Meldrum about that, and because I'll never forget seeing these little tiny footprints, and they were almost like a little seed, the shape of a seed, where the foot would fold in, like maybe it had deformed feet or something, or maybe I was reading into a print or something, because the prints weren't that good. But that's the only thing I've ever found strange about footprints ever. That's the only strange footprint I ever found that I could have, I actually thought I was looking at a very young Sasquatch footprint, and where it stepped off to the side of this trail, whereas the rest of the trail, even my Jeep didn't leave tracks in that spot. But when I stepped off to the side, looking off on the ground, I see a couple of these little footprints, and I go, what? And I didn't know nothing about mid-tarsal breaks or anything like that at the time. And I was just actually over there chasing a new area, and I just, I can't say 100% it was a baby Sasquatch footprint, but I can't, but that's what it looked like. It looked like a baby footprint, but about 6-7 inches long and kind of a C shape, or not a C, but a big arch, almost like a boomerang in it, to where it's folded inwards. And that's the only word footprint I've really ever found.
Well, that's pretty cool, that footprint you're talking about. Hey, we got a question from Kite Squatch, who wants to know if there's any kind of Bigfoot activity in the Tampa Bay area.
I have no idea. That's about 60, 70 miles south from me. I really don't hunt Tampa area. I mainly past 2 years been concentrating 2-3 years on Marion County, up in this area, because I advertise my flyers so heavy up in here. And, a lot of reports from civilians I don't chase, but I take them into account when I get a credible sighting from, let's say, a sheriff deputy or a fishing game or a forestry worker. But Florida's a pretty long state, and Tampa might be 90 miles from me, but Tampa's a good distance from me. The furthest south I was going was the Green Swamp. Now, 3 years ago, I did get some very good reports just north of there, out of the Big Cypress Swamp area, and I was supposed to go down there this winter and scout that area, because I started using live bait sometimes, because I got a report from a guy that was saying they seen two, but they suspected more of this thing coming up. Like his neighbors lost his neighbor lost 150 chickens and seen it. His favorite food is rabbits. It would walk right past goats to get the chickens or rabbits. And after it pretty much depleted the neighborhood of all the livestock, except for the goats, it moved on. And I think I still got this guy's phone number programmed in my cell, but I never went in. I never went down there because I got so much activity up here. But the one thing I did pick up from that is I got my other half. She's breeding rabbits and chickens and this, that, and whatnot. And sometimes I'll utilize that in the field, or the fecal matter. I'll take it out there, a big 5-gallon bucket of it, and let me tell you, it stinks. And dump it out as a stink bait. But I ain't had no success with it. The best success I've ever had with anything is pineapple and peanut butter. And just normal cooking in the camp, just your normal activity. And because what I try to do is I try to put myself in the woods there, because I'm not crank a vehicle or not anything, and just be there. And it's when you're not expecting something, when you're sitting on the pot or doing whatever, that something's going to happen. And it's just really just being there and trying to entice it in. And I have not found nothing that will entice it in. I ain't got that holy grail to bring it out in the open. And that's what I was trying really hard to do this year before hunting season started.
Right. Have you been able to get any? Have you been successful when you do the baiting that you also get the footprints, and you think it's because of the baiting?
Repeat that. I got the first half, but not the second half.
Well, I was asking if you think that doing the baiting is helping you to collect footprint evidence.
No, it's next to impossible to get footprints. I mean, if you used to see the terrain that I'm in, I mean, I can drive my Jeep through it, not leave a print. And then wherever the ground is real mushy, well, I believe this animal is track conscious. because I'll know something's there, and I can scour the whole area, and there's other people calling in reports from this one little spot, and I can go down there and scour the area, and you just ain't got a big area where you can walk out there and look throughout a whole big area. You might have one little spot over here where a track might be able to be placed, and then a little spot way over there because of all the dead foliage on the ground. And then where it is wet and mushy, there's foliage on top of it. But some of these trails I found, and I found this out by accident about 3 years ago, we got a severe rain in the area, and I was going, there's this little lake that's cut off from the rest of the world, basically, that you cannot drive to. There ain't no way to it. It's up down this one trail, and you got to walk about a mile, and the ticks are horrendous. The yellow flies are horrendous. This year, the mosquitoes are horrendous. And walking down there, the puddles are starting to dry, and it's like this thing had no fear of stepping in a mud puddle and leaving a track. Whenever I found my tracks down in Green Swamp, this was just at the start of the drought of Green Swamp, when Green Swamp went highly dry. And where it stepped at one time was a foot of water. And then I come back through there, and where there might be clay or mud, I come back through there, and where the water's dried up, I'm finding these footprints with about a 5-foot span between them. And the other thing I found interesting at that exact location was some polling, which was stick figuration. And at first I didn't think nothing of it. I actually took pictures of it, and but I was sitting on a boulder. There was, believe it or not, there's a boulder down there in Florida. I was sitting on this big rock smoking a cigarette, waiting on plaster cast to dry, and I'm looking at these stick figures, and then I'm looking at where they came from. I figured, just natural occurrence. But I can see where this one's been broken off from over there, drug over, and the big end's up in the air. Where if it was natural, the big end would be down. And I actually started disassembling it and went like, wow, that one goes there, this one goes way over there. These weird stick figures. Down in that area, I found one really, really spooky stick figure to where there was little skeletons near it, like raccoons, rabbits, possums. I mean, one stick, it looked almost like something you see from an old movie with, the Indians marking their territory to scare off evil spirits or something, but skeletons hanging from it. And this was not 25 feet off a dirt road, major dirt road. And I thought that was very, I looked at that, I'm like, well, gee, I was thinking maybe kids or something, I don't know. But near those tracks down in Green Swamp, I found some good polling. I usually don't look for that because I don't want to be reading into nothing, but on this particular one, they were broken off these little half-dead pine trees that were about 14, 15 feet tall, and where you can actually just almost like putting together a jigsaw puzzle, take the one and carry it over here, and like this one belongs here, that one belongs there. And I believe a lot of us belong to forest giants. I got some of that. I stuck some of the photos on there. I think I got some on my MySpace profile. I'm not sure. But that was back in 2004.
Cool. Dan, I hate to tell you this, but time is up. We're out of time already. It's hard to believe it's been an hour.
Well, I was real nervous coming on the show, and I'm I was just real nervous, but I wanted to support your show, and I was reading your upcoming guests. You got some very good guests coming on.
Well, I appreciate that, Dan. Yeah, we got some good guests. For matter of fact, next week we've got Craig Woolleater and Monica Rollins coming on because they want to tell about the 2008 Texas Bigfoot Conference coming up on October 18th.
I always enjoy hearing from Craig and what he has to say, and I see you got Mr. Knowles coming on in a couple of weeks, too, from Washington.
Yep, we sure do. So it's going to be a good one. Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And we'll definitely have to have you on again as you're getting out into the field. So thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate it. And I'll be in touch with you on the MySpace. And just like always, keep on doing it, buddy.
All right, thanks, Bill.
All right, Dan. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show.